Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. Tonight we are talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars securing their first playoff spot since the 2022 season. Thanks to a win from the San Francisco 49ers against the Indianapolis Colts, the Jaguars have now finalized a spot in the 2025 AFC playoff picture. What seed they will eventually end up being could be any number of them. There's really a chance it could be anyone except the 4 seed. I mean, it seems like the 4 seed is going to belong to the AFC North. So, will they be at the 3 seed? Will they be at the 2 seed? Will they be even number 1? All potential. If they lose the division, could be anywhere between 5 and 7. Really stacked wild card in the AFC this year, as we've talked about. But obviously, the 49ers had the most recent game that clinched it for the Jaguars, but the Jaguars are what clinched playoffs. I mean, look at these playoff fields in the AFC and the NFC. Jaguars beat the Texans once, had them beat a second time. Obviously, you don't get a moral win for blowing the worst lead in franchise history. But they clearly showed, the Texans aren't some boogeyman, but they can play with them and beat them. They obviously, have losses against the Seattle Seahawks and Los Angeles Rams, 2 top teams in the NFC, but otherwise they beat the Los Angeles Chargers handedly, mind you. They beat the Denver Broncos on the road. They beat the San Francisco 49ers on the road. I mean, there are a number of playoff teams who the Jaguars have had success against. So the Jaguars are the ones who did this. The Jaguars are the ones who have improved so much from the debacle that really was the 2024 season. 2023 was bad because, it was such a collapse, and a collapse of going from 8-3 and not in the playoffs is bad in any year. But that year, it felt worse, in my opinion, because it meant, maybe they didn't actually figure out. Maybe this isn't sustainable. And that obviously ended up being the case. They go 4-13 the next season with Doug Peterson. And I think to see this team quickly turning around and turn into a playoff team in the AFC with, frankly, the strength of the teams the Jaguars have played this season, and doing so quickly in a new regime, both on the coaching staff, in the front office, Tony Mazzelli as an EVP. I mean, Shad Khan hit reset and has produced his best regular season as owner, and they still have 2 more games left to play. The Jaguars are 11-4, people. And the Jaguars are back in the playoffs. We will see, obviously, what seed they will end up being, what opponents they will draw, etc. But what we do know is that there are several AFC teams right now who are also, making the playoffs along with them. In terms of how the Jaguars match up against these teams, so let's talk from the scenario of the Jaguars were the 2 or the 3 seed. Getting the Los Angeles Chargers at home, I think, the Chargers are obviously a good team. I mean, they've played really, if you're a Jaguars fan, you don't know anything about the Chargers other than the Jaguars just steamrolling them. But the Chargers have been one of the hotter teams in the NFL and in the AFC, other than the Jaguars absolutely beating them down. I mean, Jim Harbaugh pulled Justin Herbert early in that game. That was one of the most dominant Jaguar wins I've ever covered. Obviously, they're a good team. You make the playoffs, you're going to play a good team. I think that the Jaguars match up well with them. I think the Jaguars, can score in them, etc. So I think that's a favorable matchup. I think, if, say they're the 3 seed and the Texans are the 6 seed. I think obviously the Texans are a tough first round matchup. You probably have to play them at some point. You probably have to play them regardless. And there isn't any instance, in my opinion, where any Jaguars followers should feel like, there should be trepidation about the idea of facing the Texans. I do think it's probably the toughest matchup, right up there with the Buffalo Bills. Like, I don't think for the Buffalo Bills are a good and balanced team. I mean, their defense really lacks speed, in my opinion. It seems like they lean a lot on 2 players on their offense, and that's more or less it. And I believe the Bills are a team the Jaguars can absolutely beat. But, Josh Allen. That's the reason why the Bills, I think, deserve to be up there. But otherwise, I think the Houston Texans, obviously their defense is elite. And to me, that's the biggest reason. I'm a C.J. Stroud fan. I think he's a very talented quarterback. So I believe, out of the possible, quarterback matchups, obviously Justin Herbert, I think, is a really talented guy as well. Josh Allen as well. Aaron Rodgers doesn't really look like a scenario where the Jaguars play the Steelers unless the Jaguars are at a 5 seed and the Steelers host them. Aaron Rodgers is the worst AFC quarterback making the playoffs. I think after that, I think it's got to be Bo Nix. So I don't think if you're the Jaguars, you're that afraid of potentially having to play the Denver Broncos in some scenario. Again, I know the defense travels well, etc., but the Jaguars sure seem like they figured out Bo Nix. I know if you look at the box score, you'll see Bo Nix do for a ton of yards, had some explosive plays, and he did. That's all true, obviously. It happened. But it never felt like Bo Nix was in control of that game. It never felt like Bo Nix had the Jaguars really on their heels. It felt like he got a couple body shots in here and there. But in the biggest moments of the game, Bo Nix wasn't a quarterback, I think, that you look at if you're the Jaguars and you're wanting, to avoid. So I think power ranking, the non-Trevor Lawrence AFC quarterbacks that look likely to be in the playoffs. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers at number 7. Number 6, excuse me. I think Bo Nix at number 5. And then you got, Drake May, C.J. Stroud, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. I think, C.J. Stroud number 4. I think Herbert number 3. And then May 2 and Allen 1. And I really thought about May 1. He's, to me, an elite quarterback. I think him and Caleb Williams coming from one class, that is a heck of a, quarterback duo. We'll obviously see Jaden Daniels get healthy next year. See if he can continue to ascend and build off his rookie season. Jury's still out on J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix, both of them to a degree, and then Bo Nix. But Bo Nix is a fine starter. I don't mean when I criticize his play to say I think he's a bad player or anything like that. I think the perception has kind of made him like the quarterback wins poster boy. So I don't think if you're the Jaguars, you're afraid of facing him. I think facing him or Rodgers are probably, the best scenarios if you want a first round win. But one way or another, you're going to have to face either Stroud, Herbert, Allen, or May if you're the Jaguars. And you're going to have to face, 2 to 3 of them if you want to make it all the way through the playoffs. The Jaguars still have more business to settle. The Indianapolis Colts game still means something. It's not a meaningless game by any means. The Jaguars need to, ensure they keep this thing rolling so they can continue to, get an AFC South title, likely top 3 spot in the AFC playoffs, and host a playoff game, for their fans, for Duval County, and for Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. Please remember to like us on Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI.